was living life the way they told me, the house, the car, the job, until I got Bell's palsy. Your face becomes paralyzed. But yoga allowed me to see that that's not the life I wanted to live. It allowed me to slow down and to connect with myself. Yoga allowed me to come back home to who I was. It allowed me to heal mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Thank you for choosing this Well Chat. To support future episodes, consider purchasing a Freedom Art Mat or vegan leather journal at freedomatthemat.com. We're a nonprofit dedicated to improving the lives of women globally through wellness education and appreciate your support. Now, on to the conversation. Hi, everybody. It's Olivia Scott, and welcome to another edition of Well Chat. So it is no secret that yoga is not something widely adopted by Black women. Full stop. We know that. This is changing, though, due to incredible pioneers like some of the godmothers of Black yoga, who I've called godmothers, including Faith Hunter, Diane Bondi, Leslie Salmon Jones, and so many others, including our guest today. Now, don't kill me if I didn't mention your name today, right? There's so many, but there's some that have really been doing the work. And I'm grateful today that we have one of them sharing with us. There is so much room for Black women to experience this modality, which I personally fell in love with in 2014 after two prior bouts I had with yoga. In 1996 in Chicago and 2007 in Harlem, I finally found my flow in New Jersey with my teacher, Mariana Benten. So you have to find your teacher. And today we have a beautiful woman who teaches so many women. It's a godmother of Black yoga as well. She's based in the UK, and her work has been dedicated to body positivity yoga and creating spaces for Black women in yoga. Donna Noble is a speaker, well-being educator, one of the most influential yoga teachers in the world, who's been practicing since the 90s, featured in Women's Health, Yoga, Lifestyle Magazine, BBC Radio London, and so many others, and is an author as well. We're going to hear more from her today about her books. Welcome, Donna Noble. Donna, how are you?
Good, Olivia. Thank you for that awesome build-up there. I've only up to it in the interview today, but thank you. I'm so pleased to be here.
Very happy to have you. Thank you. Thank you. So you've been doing this work for such a long time, creating spaces for Black and full-size bodies to practice yoga. So I want to just say thank you on behalf of our entire community. I'd like for you to share with us what yoga means to you, right? I know many of us, when we hear the term yoga, people automatically, and it drives me crazy, and many yoga teachers crazy, that it just means the physical, right?
The asana.
But we know about the 8 limbs. So I want you to tell us more about what yoga is and what it means to you and why you've been doing this work so vigilantly for so long.
Yoga means to unite, to join. So for me, it's about community. And so yoga allows me to connect with myself. That's one of the most important aspects of it for me. And that's what it did for me when I was working in the corporate world for 20 plus years. When I got to a point in my life where I became ill, I got Bell's palsy. And Bell's palsy is when one side of your face becomes paralyzed. But yoga allowed me to see that that's not the life I wanted to live. It allowed me to slow down. And in that time, Olivia, it allowed me to connect with myself, connect with who I really was. And I lost that part of me when I went into corporate. I began to let all the external noise influence what I did. And yoga allowed me to come back home to who I was. And so I was able to start that journey. But most importantly, it allowed me to heal mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I was able to leave the corporate world because of yoga.
I love this story, right? Yeah. But I need you to tell us what it was. You said yoga is community. Yoga means to unite. Yeah. But was it the physical? Was it the opportunity to breathe and slow down? What was it? And what were you practicing as yoga that made you say, aha, I'm walking away. I want to live a different life.
So initially, the way in which my yoga journey started, I knew nothing about yoga because I've been practicing it since the late 1990s. Knew nothing about yoga. Yoga was deemed as being woo-woo, out there, whatever. So it was nobody I knew, family or friends, that did yoga. A friend of mine saw a picture of Madonna in a yoga pose in one of the newspapers, and she was really impressed with how Madonna looked. So she was impressed by the physical part of that. And she said, Donna, let's give it a go. Let's get a yoga mat. And I was lucky enough that we had someone that was practicing to be, training rather, to be a yoga teacher. So she goes, you can be my guinea pigs, and we'll go into one of the meeting rooms in the office. And that's how I began to find yoga. So it was about the physical initially, like most people. But when I had my illness, that's when it began to change, because I was able then to see that there was more to it. I remember being on one of my more to it, and I was starting to do a training course. A friend of mine said, Donna, you need a plan B. And I thought, plan B, I'm living life. I'm living life the way they told me, the house, the car, the job. I'm doing all those things, but it wasn't enough.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I felt the same way.
Yeah. And then I began to listen to him, and I thought, so I said, I was working as a manager in IT. So I now realized that I was really into systems and seeing how patterns were. And I'm doing the same thing now with yoga and people. I didn't realize that I changed my career, but the way I look at things hadn't changed. And that I'll talk about that later. And so basically still wouldn't leave my job, Olivia. I became ill, and the yoga began to help me to heal, because I started to go down a holistic path, something I would never have done without yoga. I would never have gone into that world because it was so far removed from what the world I was in. And basically, when I began to realize how much yoga was beginning to impact me, was when I had having a transformation with me, or on me, was when I started doing a master NLP practitioner course, and I was being made redundant. And everyone goes, Donna, you're really cool and calm about the redundancy thing. I didn't even realize that I was changing, and people could see it. Because normally I'd be like really afraid, what am I going to do for finance and how to live? But I apparently was cool and calm about it. And the moment that I found out how impactful yoga was, when she said to me, of course you know what you want to do. I said, no, I don't. She said, unconsciously you know. And I said, no, I don't. She said, yes, you do. She said, when you talk about yoga, you light up. And when you talk about corporate, you don't. And in that instant, Olivia, it was like, okay, I'm going to give this is called yoga a chance. So I said, I was practicing, I started to do a training course, and I was only doing that as something to do when I retired. So it wasn't even something that I was realizing how beneficial it was to me at the time, because I'll park it if I get bored when I retire. But the universe said, okay, I'm going to make you retire early. So I got what I wanted, because I was able to retire from the corporate world and pursue this life, this of a yogi. Unintentionally, I never imagined that I'd be speaking to you now, because I never even imagined that yoga would focus in my life. It was a hobby. It was just movement to me at that point. And it's only when I started that path and what I did to give it a go, I was doing big hot yoga came to London, and it was the hot yoga at the time. And it got me out of my bed onto a yoga mat at 6:30 a.m. in the morning. There's anything that would get me out of my bed. I'd be in my bed normally, but I was on a mat, sweating my guts and going to work and dealing with all the shit they gave me. And they saw the change. I could deal with all the crap they gave me and started to change. And they actually said that yoga was impacting my work. And I looked at them like, you're crazy. It's only that I've got a focus now. You don't like that, because I wasn't working all the hours God sent for them. I had a life now, you see, and I wasn't responding to emails in the evening. I'd literally leave, go to yoga, and it was my way to wind down. So I then decided what I will do is go to do the Bikram training. So I thought, that's the one yoga where I can get work, because there weren't that many teachers in the UK doing the hot yoga training. So my intention was to go to America for nine weeks with the training, and maybe stay for 2 weeks. So everyone said, if you can, get some experience while you're there. So 11 weeks was going to be the total time that I went there for. I went in 2012, I believe, for the April training, and I ended up staying for 6 months. The path began to unfold in front of me. I began to let go of certain things, and it just felt right. I began to feel as opposed to think about what I was doing. If something felt right, I would do it, and it's worked out. And since then, I've not looked back. And anything I've done in my yoga career or path, I've not planned it, but it's worked out. And it's like the more I let go, the more because it's like me trying to plan my life, but God's got a different plan for me. So I let go and say, God's going to know what he's going to give me. And I trust that, and I know it feels right. I'm impatient sometimes. It's not easy. I'm impatient. I want to know what's coming next, but then I just know it will be fine. It'll be fine. And that's how I began to see that yoga was so much more than the physical, that it allowed me to connect with myself. And through the illness, because before the Bell's palsy, I was very much into how my body looked, like we all are. But when my body began to heal, Olivia, I
Yeah.
began to appreciate my body, all it did for me, not how it looked. And that's why I think body positivity started, because I began to realize everyone is fine as they are.
Right. So I need you to tell me something else, kind of a woo question, but how do you feel when you're doing yoga? How do you feel? Like, for those people who are watching this, who are other Black women who like, I heard about yoga, but I don't know. But they're like, oh, I'm inspired. You got two Black women talking about how much they love doing yoga. How do you feel in your body when you're doing yoga?
I feel free in my body. It's like I feel light. I feel at home in my body. I feel the connection. I begin to feel sensations because our body communicates with us and we don't realize that every single minute of the day, our body communicates with us. And yoga allows me to understand what my body's saying. So if I get a little niggle or a sensation, it's like, oh, I'm curious. What does that mean? What's that all about? And it will allow me to reflect maybe on my day. Like I'll be in tree pose and one day I'll be solid. So I know, okay, I'm here, I'm present. And there'll be a day I come on my mat and I'm wobbling. I thought, what's going on with you off the mat? Because you bring what's off the mat onto the mat and vice versa. But it frees me. Yoga's helped me, Olivia, to go through grief. When my grandfather died, and my grandmother actually, I went to yoga and I was able... the second time I went and did that, I was teaching at a festival and I dedicated my practice to my grandfather. But I also received from the individuals in the space, the energy, the exchange of energy. Yeah. We fed each other. And I got through and they were so forgiving. I said, if I mix my left and my rights up, please forgive me. And I was fine. I got through it. And they said, and everyone came and said, your grandfather will be so proud of you. And that's when the tears came. It gave me the release I needed on the mat there and over the weekend, because I was able to receive. I taught one class, but I was able to receive the rest. I was able to go to classes, lay there if I wanted to, rest and to breathe and get out what I want to get so I could be strong for my family. Yoga gives me so much. It gives me the strength to deal with my everyday life. And that's why I'm so sad that so many Black women don't realize this. It allows me to we say, let stuff go, let shit go. And we're not being glib about it. It really allows us to let stuff go. It allows me to see that's not important. That person's not important. Let it go. If I'm in traffic and I used to curse all the time and do beep, beep, want to rush from A to B. Now I've slowed down. I can enjoy life more. I can look up and see the moon. Whereas before I had no time to even look up and see the moon. But now I can appreciate the beauty of it and realize that all that is guaranteed is the present moment. You can try and rush to the future, but the future's not guaranteed. But enjoy now, because I can be in the class and I'm teaching a class and they're trying to anticipate the next posture. And I say, I haven't lifted their arms up yet. And I bring them back in the room and they begin to realize what they do. And I actually use it as a teaching point. And I say, if I'm here and I'm guiding you, what are you like in your everyday life? And you're doing this with me guiding, you're trying to anticipate. What are you like in your everyday life? What are you not enjoying? It makes you so disconnected with your body. And that's when they become present and they understand and they begin to connect to their bodies. And when they see that everything they need, and that's what yoga showed me, that everything I need is not outside there, it's inside of me.
You are preaching to the choir. This is exactly what I have been espousing with Freedom at the Mat from the very beginning. From the moment that I had the inspiration to create Freedom at the Mat, it was a moment I was at the Asheville Yoga Festival in Asheville, North Carolina, in a Rusty Wells class. I was on my mat and he was like, whatever you're working through right now, I want y'all to leave it. And I want you to leave it right there. Leave it right where you are. And I was in like a warrior two, and he was making us hold it for a really long time. And I was like, it allowed for me to move the energy through my body. And I remember in that moment, I was like, I'm leaving this at the mat today. I'm not taking this with me anymore. Wow. And when I got back to New York, I was like, wait a minute. It's 2017. I was like, freedom. I found my freedom at the mat. And that was kind of where it came from. So when you talk about being able to rest at the mat, being able to connect with your body at the mat and through yoga, that is exactly what freedom at the mat, what the definition of it is and what it's always been around. It's right. Black women, even if you're not doing yoga, you can pause at the mat and just get some peace, do some breath work. I spoke with a young lady last week who bought one of my mats and she had not done any yoga. I said, have you been using your mat? Oh, I haven't had time. And I said, honey, you don't have to do poses. You can just sit on it.
Mhm.
Like, let that be your
Yeah.
destination for
Yes.
wellness. So you and I are definitely kismet, and I'm so grateful for your time today. You know, you created UK's Black Wellbeing and Fitness Festival, Curvesome Yoga, and you're creating space with your new books as well. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about Black Girls Own Too? And I think you have another title as well.
I do. So Black Girls on Two is an anthology. So it's got a number of Black yoga teachers. And our goal is to show that Black women do yoga too. So we basically are sharing our yoga journey. Like in my chapter shares about Curvesome Yoga, how Curvesome Yoga came about. That, you know, that I wanted to create something that was different so that people would know that yoga was for them too. And initially it was like I wanted to, because I saw there were no curvy people when I went on the yoga mat. So I wanted to call it curvy yoga, a wholesome yoga first of all. And I thought it sounds like bread. I don't like it. Doesn't sound like bread. So I thought I'd Googled every permutation of the word curvy and thought it's oversaturated. So I came up with Curvesome Yoga to show that everybody is a yoga body. It doesn't matter your age, your size, your gender, your ethnicity or ability. Yoga is for you because yoga really is for everybody. And that's what I've been trying to share with Curvesome Yoga. And that was back in, I think about 14 years ago, so a long time ago. And I got a lot of resistance in the beginning because people were like, you're not curvy. How can you teach to curvy people? And I hid. No one knew Curvesome Yoga was me for a long time until somebody actually, I can't remember who it was, but they said, you don't have to be gay to advocate gay rights. And that was it. I was off. And
Correct.
that was it. And it was, and that was off. And like now everyone's body positive. But so people said, Donna, you're a pioneer because you came up. Because there were people like Diane Bondi, Jessamine Stanley that were doing this in the States, but no one in the UK was doing that at the time. And it was so beautiful to see them share their practices, you know, and be unapologetic themselves. And that's what I wanted to share because we have so much going on as Black women, as Black people. And yoga for me is a way in which I am able to show up in the world and to deal with the world at the moment. And we need yoga more now than ever before. And when I go to talks or conferences and hear what Black women are going through, and I think, but you have yoga can help you, but they're not looking at that. And that's why I do what I do, because yoga is a tool that we have. And, you know, yoga is something that we've been doing for years. You've got Kemetic yoga, Egyptian yoga, as you know, so yoga's been part of our DNA quite literally. And and what I've seen as well, Olivia, we're doing yoga without even knowing it at the time, you know, because you know, yoga never began on the yoga mat. You know, if it began in life, yoga was designed to help you deal with life, you know, and to connect with whatever you believe in and to get rid of the disillusionment. This you find the truth for you. And I say to people when they say to me, I can't do yoga, I say, when you lie on your bed and you spread out, that's Savasana. When you bend over to drop your shoelaces, you're doing standing forward fold. So you're doing yoga in everyday life without realizing it. When you put your hand on your heart like that, that's connection. You know, the body is doing it organically. So when you reach up to the sky or, you know, you're doing a yoga pose. So yoga, before yoga came about, we were doing yoga, but someone created the yogic system and maybe created some of those postures but with people are doing that. When you bend down to pick up a child, you're doing malasana. There's so much that we're doing that's yoga that people don't know. And that's why I try and bring that association in. So you're already doing yoga. You know, it's not get your leg behind your head, like some of the postures that we see. And that's become the boy or girl of yoga. That's not yoga. You know, yoga can be you lie on your mat. And I'll say to people, if you want to come to my class and lie on your back the entire time, you're breathing. That's yoga too.
I never thought about that. I never thought about it that way, but you are absolutely right. We're doing yoga every day and we don't know it. Now, so this gets into why I hate the perception that people have about what yoga is, right? Because the perception isn't true.
Yeah.
People think that yoga is something that it's truly not. And it's like yoga is something we can all be doing. There is a perception that it's only for people who are not Black. It is a perception that it is, you have to be thin. All the issues I struggle with. So I want to talk to you about that just for a moment, right? There's often a conversation around cultural appropriation versus appreciation in yoga, right? I've been challenged around it as well, being someone who in class, I don't use a lot of Sanskrit,
Mhm.
right? My women to feel connected. So I'm like, listen, I'll just use my own language. I know other Black women use stretching terms. We don't use the Sanskrit in class
Mhm.
often because we don't want to alienate. How do you navigate honoring the roots of yoga while also making it accessible and relevant to Black communities? I'd really like to know how you do it.
But what I do, I always honor the roots of yoga, and I always mention where it's come from. And I basically, and that's why my new book, Demystifying Yoga, is to address all those misconceptions and those stereotypes about it. But I honor yoga's roots. I don't go in there and I don't do anything that someone might find offensive. Like I don't chant in my classes. I know that will put some people off. And, but I say, if you want, you can honor whatever you believe in. So I give people autonomy over their practice, but
Okay.
mainly I will honor the roots of yoga. And I always will challenge it. And I'll say, it's shown to come mainly from South Asia, but I also honor African yoga. And I bring it back to that. So what I try to do there is give individuals, especially Black individuals, another way into yoga, because we always also have that religious piece, that conflict with it being
Right.
related religion, but honoring the roots of yoga. That's the main way I do it. So I may use a Sanskrit term for some of the postures. I interchange them, but I'll use the English term as well. So I teach to the room. That's what I do. If I have to explain something, someone comes into my space, now I don't want to do yoga, I explain what yoga is, because again, it's because it's been appropriated and all they see is individuals that are maybe white. I try and be as visible as possible because representation is so important. So, and that came about for me. I didn't even consider that, Olivia. It came about because I was teaching at a festival in London. And it was summer, but it wasn't really summer, the typical British weather. It was raining. It's like, if I were me, I'd be going home at the last class. I wouldn't be hanging around, to this class. I was being interviewed by a magazine. So I did the interview and said, hang around. I thought, no one's going to come. No one's going to come. And I walked up. So when it was outside, and I walked up and I saw so many Black women. And I was like, and I still didn't make the connection. And at the end of the class, they came up and said, we actually came to support you. And you need to be more visible. And the person that was interviewing me was white. And she said, Donna, did you notice how many Black women were there in your class? Because it was an anomaly, because that wouldn't happen. And that was back, I think it was like about 10 years ago. So then it was starting to change. There were women that wanted yoga. Even a few weeks ago, I put up an anniversary post and somebody said, Donna, you were the one teacher that I found, and you made me seem like I wasn't mad to my family, because they were like, why are you doing this? No one of color's doing it. But I was the one person that was there that she could reference the point that was it. So sometimes when we do this work, Olivia, we don't know how we are impacting people. We might find out years later, but we just need to be there to do it, because representation is so important, and we belong in the room, because yoga started with us. And what I'm finding, and what I keep saying now, we need to remember, because our ancestors had these tools. It may not have been called yoga, but
Yes.
had these tools, and they were fighting physical battles, and they had their beliefs that helped them to get through. And we need to remember those things and bring them into our everyday life so we can deal with what we're going through right now.
Okay, so let me ask you just a few more questions. I 100% I'm aligned with you, as you know, because I agreed. But I want to talk to you about it, equipping and supporting people who are listening, who are like, okay, I'm buying what she's selling. I want to access it, but I don't know how. And I'll give you a couple of different entry points. So I think about a time in which I went to a yoga studio in Memphis, and I was the only Black person in the room. And the woman called me out and said, is this your first yoga class? And I was like, oh my God, I'm a yoga teacher. Am I going to curse her out? How am I going to handle this? Right. So I think about like being in spaces in which we don't belong, whether it is our color or our size. You speak about body positivity and accessibility. I want you to talk about how you adapt yoga in a way that honors different bodies and different people in the room without making anyone feel less than in the room. And I want to go further before you respond. I was taking a class with some women who were not Black in California, and they were like, Olivia, like other teachers, some certification, they were like, tell us, like, what do we say? How do we honor Black people in the room or larger bodies? I just don't know how to do it. Like, I know how to teach sameness, people who look like me. How do I do it in a way that doesn't disrespect you when you come in the room? And I was like, I would have never thought that was an issue until I experienced it myself. So what strategies do you have, whether it's for Black people or for larger size bodies?
Yeah, there's one thing I've got a book out to address that. My first book, Teaching Body Positive Yoga. It's here. And so this book is for teachers and anybody. And as you can see, the imagery shows diverse bodies. So this book gives you everything. How to say to individuals that don't worry about how the yoga looks. It's more important how the yoga makes you feel. And I will say things like, take up as much space for your unique body and things like that. And what I will do as well, if there's someone then it's clear they may want to practice in a chair, I will practice in a chair with them, because I believe that everyone should be able to practice in a space together. So I will have a class with someone's using the wall, someone's using a chair, someone's on the mat. I teach to those bodies in the room, and language is so important, because what we say could make someone feel othered. Like someone might say, lift your right up. Just lift your right arm up. And it's like, whoa. And it sounds like it's easy, but say someone can't do it, and that will take them out of the practice, out of the moment. And I would say to individuals, if you struggle, go back to your why. Why do you want to teach yoga? If you come from your heart, then hopefully imagine you're in someone else's shoes and how you want to be taught.
Right.
That's how I say to individuals to try and teach it. But what we need to do is give somebody agency. And if there's someone in the room that they're the only person of a certain shape or size, and I feel they can benefit from a variation, I will give them the variation after the practice, so they don't feel as though I'm picking on them. Because I've been body shamed in classes, because I've got tight hips. So there's the, wide leg is forward fold. So I have to extend my legs after I come down. I can't extend them, and I've been body shamed. So what you find is I will then say to somebody, you can do this in this particular way, and so they come back the next time and they feel they can adjust it. And what I do as well to maybe help change people's perception, and I'll say you were in my class, Olivia, but I'd get your permission before. So to change perceptions, I will say, can you demonstrate that pose for me? So I don't, look who's in the room, and don't always go to the same people to demonstrate. Yeah. So you'll go to you might go to that typical yoga body every single time. But if there's someone that's different and that changed perception. Oh my God, I didn't know you could do that. You see the shock on someone's face when someone does that. And even when someone's doing their own practice, they're amazed at what they can do. Like I will stop the class and say, you got any questions? And I said, I can see questions. So I teach my class like a mini workshop. So I hope that people will get something from my class. They'll hear something, see something, or they'll feel something that they can take with them. And that's how I make everyone feel comfortable. we call it in the UK, it's called social prescribing, where it's where yoga gets prescribed by the doctors. So I have people that come into, so I have people that have arthritis. They recovering from injuries and what have you. So I've done training. I've done accessible yoga training, did Diane Bondi's training, so that I could teach to everybody that came into my space, that I wouldn't just say going to Savasana or whatever people say, or going to child's pose, that I could say to somebody, here's how you can change the posture. And for teachers, I say flip the orientation. What is the intention of the pose? Doesn't have to look a certain way. What is the intention of the pose? Flip it, be creative. That's how yoga evolves. And that's what I say to them. And if you don't know the answer, admit it. That person will respect you. They contort them into a pose. And I say to people, it's not about contorting your body in the pose. Yes. Getting the pose to work for your body. And that's where people then have agency. And to make the class fun, it doesn't have to be serious. I will say to breathe. The yoga faces come into the room and I say, you're not breathing. I say, sometimes I've got to breathe, I've got to talk, and I've got to do the pose. And I'm still breathing. Right. All you've got to do is breathe and do the pose, and you're not breathing. And then they become more present with the breath, and you explain that the breath is key to the practice, and they begin to get it. And there was a moment, Olivia, I said to somebody the other day, I said, let's breathe, let's sit in the chair and breathe. Because it was a mixed liver class. I get mixed up. I say to people sometimes, those of you on the mat, do what I say, and those of you in the chair do what I do. And I'm sure the two get mixed up, and we have a laugh about it. But I'm normalizing mistakes. It's not about being perfect. And they'll take that onto the mat. One of my students, I said, let's do a count of 6. And I said, okay, you do your own breath now. And so I said, how many breaths did you take? She said, 20. I said, where did you do this before? She said, no. She goes, Donna, you taught me that. Because then they began to realize their body's true potential. So there's a lot of the time you give people agency of their body, they can do so much more than you believe. And that's what I love. That's why I love teaching yoga, because it's almost like when they come home to themselves and they realize something that they do, that's the beauty of the yoga, the connection there. And you know that when they go into life, they'll bring those skills. I teach yoga in a way that you can bring some of those things you learn into your everyday life. That for me is the real yoga. And I say to them, okay, you're outside, you get your leg behind your head. What's that giving you in that moment? A party trick. But if you pause, if you breathe, if you connect yourself, because your body's always talking to you. And right now, what I'm seeing even more is you can ask people how many steps they've done. They can tell you. What's their calorie count? They can tell you. How they slept, they can tell you. But you ask them how they're doing, they have to pause. They don't know. They've disconnected from themselves. They've outsourced it to apps, to whatever, and they need to come back. And yoga allows you to come back, journey back to yourself.
All right. So let me ask you this. So for spaces, brands, and studios that want to be more inclusive, but don't know where to start and maybe getting it wrong, what advice would you have for them?
There are teachers out there like myself. I'm not plugging myself, but there's teachers out there that are making yoga more inclusive. If you're really serious about it, reach out. You've got Diane Bondi, you've got Dr. Gail Parker. There's so many that are showing yoga in an accessible way. Offer the training to your teachers, to yourself, and that's how you can invite more people in, because people say, no, the market's oversaturated, because you're going for that small percentage of people. There are people out there with disabilities that want to access yoga, but they're afraid to go in those spaces to access, because again, they might feel othered. You know, if someone comes into your class, you know, saying something like, oh, you want to get ratchet and things like that, that's not the way you're going to welcome someone who's a black person, or you should, oh, I want to be, or the other thing, oh, I'd like to be the same skin tone as you. Those are things that aren't going to make someone feel welcome. So you need to think about what you're saying. And I put all those in anything that I've taught. I teach that. So people are aware how important language is, because it can inspire or it can devastate. And once those words are uttered, you can't take them back. So you need to, and I'm sure I will make mistakes, because, you know, there's some, like, guys was a very supposed to be a gender neutral term, wasn't it? And so everyone said, guys, and everywhere outside you go, guys, and then, but you shouldn't use in the yoga space, because you don't know how someone presents in the yoga space, and God may offend them. So we need to learn these things. So it's unlearning what we've learned. And that's what I've been doing in my journey. And that's why I'm going back to basics.
I appreciate what you shared just a little bit ago, just about it being about what's the function of the pose.
Yes.
Because I think there is, and that was so eloquently said and so beautifully said. And I'm going to carry that with me personally, because sometimes we get so focused on trying to do half moon and trying to get that leg up and trying to, right? But it's like, no. What I'm doing is I'm opening my hip.
Yeah.
I'm opening my shoulders.
Yes.
I'm opening my chest. Like, if we can focus more on the function for the body, and teach our teachers who are listening to this as well.
And also, sorry to cut you, but there's also, like, with the back bend, I always demonstrate, because when they do the sun salutation, I say, why are you being so stingy with your body? They're barely going back, and you can clearly see they have the potential to go more. So I will say, and even if it's in a class where I don't know the person, I'll say, is there a person that would like to demonstrate this? And I make them come to the front of the room if they feel comfortable, and I'll make them have their feet together apart, so that, again, they do what their body needs in that moment. Then I say, squeeze your bum and bring your hips forward. Then you're going to don't go in the lower part of the back, which a lot of us do. So I explain that. A lot of us will collapse, so I can go quite deep. But you want to stretch up first and then over. And they go so deep. And when you see them trust themselves, I say, go back, go back, go back, go back. And people are gasping. And then you can tell when they've gone back, because they come up and they go, because they've opened their heart, they've opened their chest. And I explain that a lot of us don't do that, because we're over a computer and we're afraid to open our heart, open our chest. And that's how the body starts to change. Trust your body. Your body will protect you as long as you listen to it. It will give you a sign in terms of pain, or you're going too far. Dull muscular pain is good pain because you're opening up something, but sharp shooting pain, the body say, no, back off. So get to know your body, get to know the signs. If you get sweaty palms or butterflies, that's you're nervous. You'll be nervous, and use the breath, because the breath will tell you. It can be your worst friend. I said it wrong. It could be your enemy,
Yeah, best friend.
or best
Yeah,
friend.
of course, enemy. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that
I know
wrong.
what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Thank you. Yeah. And I explain that. And when you see them come back to the breath and they take the breath, then you know it's work. You know, it's like experience the world from the inside out. Don't care about who's doing what on that mat. You don't know their journey. Have your journey and take your time.
And so for someone, as we close out, my final couple of questions, for someone who can't afford studio classes or feels intimidated walking into those spaces, because, you know, we do a great job on Instagram of like contorting our bodies as yoga people and making people feel intimidated. So what are simple, accessible ways that you think that a person who is not a practitioner can begin a yoga or mindfulness practice?
Okay. What I'd say for them, if they're on the social media, look for somebody that says pause, slow down, listen to your body, using accessible language that appeals to you. If it's saying it's fast and it's flowing, it may not be for you. But one thing they can do right now as well is, I'm plugging my book, is get this book, because this book is like an FAQ for complete beginners. So every question I've listed the styles of yoga. So, you know, if you want something, you know, spicy, you go to Bikram yoga, you go vinyasa. If you want something slow, you go to yin. So it's in there. And all the questions like, I don't have the right clothes. Wear what you want. And I actually list that. You wear what you want. You know, there's, you know, and basically, and go to a class where they say you can pause, and they actually tell you what to expect. And if you can, I used to do this as well. I would actually say to students, you can ring me, because you can get a student's vibe, a teacher's vibe, which some people do like. They'd be hesitant and say, oh, but you've persuaded me to go, because you can then address the concerns that they have. And you can actually say to some people, you know, come to the class, you can sit in the back of the class and observe it for a little while, so they can see how the class is, the community of the class, and take it from there. And also, I'd say, you know, there's free classes on YouTube, but again, they may not know the teacher, and there's so many teachers on there. You don't know if they're teaching in the right way. So yeah, I'd say go on there and maybe look. If you do use social media, try and get to a class with a teacher, because sometimes you develop so many bad habits, you don't realize it. So a teacher can maybe help to correct what you're doing. So every once in a while to do that. And that's the way you can make it accessible. And there are community classes out there. There are classes that are being offered for free. Find those as well. And to make it more affordable, you might find some studios. I know they did it in the States when I was there, but they called them like Helping Hand, where they may offer you go in and you help out around the studio, and then in exchange for free classes. So there's things out there that people are doing, and they might be donation-based class where they say to somebody, like, if I can afford the class, I may pay it forward for someone that can't do it. So there's a lot of people out there and initiatives that people are creating to make yoga accessible and inclusive for everybody.
So thank you. I have two things. I want you to state the name of your book, because for those listening to audio only, the name of the book, you showed it, but state the name of the book as well.
Yeah. Okay. So the first book I wrote was called Teaching Body Positive Yoga. And even though it was supposed to be for like yoga teachers, a lot of people have said you don't have to be a yoga teacher to read it. And because of the way I share, Olivia, some people said they had it on their bedside, because it was almost like I shared my story like an affirmation. So it went deeper, in that respect. But then the next one is Demystifying Yoga, and it's coming out August the 21st. And this book is a book that I wish I had, that if I'm somebody that's curious about yoga, even yoga, it addresses all the stereotypes, that any reasons or objections for doing yoga, it explains it. It tells you what you may need to wear to a specific yoga class. Like if you're going to go to an aqua yoga class, like I teach, swimming costumes, it tells you, but it tells you for others that you don't have to, you go as you are, and a class should embrace you for that as well. And also the new one, the other one, which I contributed to, is Black Girls on 2. So, and this is to encourage Black women to see other Black women sharing their yoga journey, to encourage more of us to do yoga as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today. My last question, I'm going to be getting Demystifying Yoga and Black Girl 2. I'm going to get both of those, Black Girls on 2. What does healing look like for you right now?
What does yoga look like for me?
what does healing look like for you right now?
Yeah.
And how has your definition of healing evolved over your years of practice?
My definition of healing right now is listening to my body, because my body, I don't have to do anything and my body will heal. So I get out of my mind and my body's way, and my body, like it did with the Bell's palsy, I had it for 5 years and I did everything they said to do medically, didn't work. As soon as I got out of my own way and slowed down, the body began to heal. So that's what my definition of heal is listen to my body. I don't optimize it. And what I'm doing right now is I'm remembering and trying to find out what our ancestors did, because some of their remedies and what they had is better than what we've got right now. So we need to remember that and to believe in ourselves, that to know that we have innate wisdom within us. We need to tap into it and don't be distracted by the external noise, because some of it is distraction. And to
That's right.
And to heal, allow myself to heal by letting stuff go. And rest shouldn't be a radical act. Rest is part of our DNA. If you rest, you will heal. And that's what I'm doing now. If I want to have a hot Epsom salt bath in the middle of the day, I will have it. If I want to have a nap, I will have it. I am listening to my body. My body is trying to talk to me. Don't deny your body. Your body isn't there to be an inconvenience. Your body is there to guide you. And I'm seeing so much now, Olivia, that the body talks to you, and it's only when it gets to like trauma or crisis, they begin to listen, and sometimes it's too late.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Donna. I am so grateful for your time today. We're grateful for your wisdom. I'm grateful for your service, grateful for you writing these books to really amplify the distribution of your experience and your wisdom to so many women.
Yeah.
We will for certain make sure that we put a link to your books and your information, your website. You have a beautiful website that gives more insight into your history as well.
Thank
And may
you.
God continue to bless you on this path. I'm so grateful for your courage to leave corporate and just go with God and go with yoga. Our entire world and society is definitely better for your service to
Thank
continue.
you.
So may God continue to bless you, Donna.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm made to try and connect with you if I come to America at some stage. But thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Perfect, but I'm not done. I'm on the healing journey with each day of the ride.